Madam Mayor, we are good to go.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would like to call this special council meeting of September 15th, 2020 to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Easton, the Mayor of the Town of Lincoln and Chair of today's special council meeting. We're meeting electronically through Zoom during this declared emergency period. Members of the public may observe the proceedings by accessing the live webcast at our YouTube channel. The Shononton people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. Madam Clerk, would you please complete the roll call to establish quorum?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Easton,
Here.
Councillor Rajima,
Here.
Councillor Russell,
Here.
Councillor Brunet,
Here.
Councillor Pachariva,
Here.
Councillor McPherson,
Here.
Councillor Miklick,
Here.
Councillor Timmers,
Here.
and Councillor Reimer.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us today electronically. Chief Administrative Officer Mike Kirkopoulos, Finance Treasurer Terry Trawala, Director of Planning and Development Kathleen Dale, Associate Director of Planning and Development Matt Bruder, Director of Community Services Shannon Mackay, Fire Chief Greg Hudson, Economic Development Officer Paul Diani, Director of Public Works Dave Graham, and moderating and clerking the meeting today, we have our Town Clerk Julie Kirkelos. We also have in attendance Regional Councillor Rob Foster, Corporate Customer Service Administrator Deanna Phillips. IT staff in attendance are Matt Guadilono and John Brown. As this is a virtual meeting, I will ask that we follow some procedures during this electronic meeting. Should there be a connection to service disruption for the chair, or if quorum is lost, the chair and our clerk will call a 10-minute recess to reconnect and to regain quorum. If quorum is lost, the meeting will be adjourned. If connection is lost from the chair, deputy mayor, or the vice chair will resume the meeting. Once a reconnection is scheduled, the chair will assume their role. Each member of council who wishes to speak, press the raise hand feature on your video call, and the clerk will track our speakers list today and then invite you to speak when I open it for comments or questions. Also, when I finish reading a motion and announcing the mover and seconder, the clerk will then call out the vote by reading each member of council's name out loud. Please remember to take yourselves off mute during this portion of the meeting so that you can confirm if you are in support or opposed. When speaking, please remember to put yourselves on mute. When not speaking, please put yourself on mute. I have an amendment to the agenda, and I would like to add an introduction of notice of motion regarding road safety and traffic control to be considered immediately. We will require a 2/3 vote to add this new item to the agenda under notices of motion as item 13.1. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Thank you. Do other members have any amendments to the agenda? Madam Clerk, do you see anything?
I do not, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Madam Clerk?
I do not see a hand raised.
All right. Do any members have any announcements they would like to make?
Madam Mayor, we have Counselor McPherson.
Very good. Councillor McPherson, just a reminder for everyone, you have a limit of 3 items. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Back in 1967, challenges were facing retailers as a proliferation of shopping malls were springing up on the outskirts of the city. I think we can all relate to that. As a result, some merchants were forced to close their shops or even in some cases, follow the crowds to the malls. Vacancies resulted and many local shopping areas began to look run down and seem doomed to oblivion. Out of sheer frustration, a group of business people, including Alex Ling, a true visionary in the west end of Toronto along Bloor Street West, went to City Hall in the province seeking legislation that would compel all businesses within a designated area to pay a levy for the purpose of revitalizing their business strip through physical improvements and promotional activities. The levy would be collected by the city and turned over to the elected board of management to be used as needed. After some persuasion, the idea was finally adopted and the Business Improvement Area, BIA legislation was enacted and became Sanction 204-217 of the Municipal Act. Bloor West Village became the pioneer of the BIA concept and was designated as the first BIA on September 16th, 1970, 50 years ago tomorrow. Currently, there are more than 300 BIAs in the province of Ontario. The model is used across Canada and throughout the United States and abroad. Businesses, governments, and community members believe in the concept and have seen the successes in the model of Main Street communities everywhere. Our downtown Beamsville BIA will be celebrating this milestone this week and joining BIAs across the nation in the celebration of the 50th anniversary. As the council representative on the downtown Beamsville BIA board, I would like to acknowledge that the town of Lincoln recognizes the contributions of businesses, organizations, and groups within the downtown Beamsville BIA. The dedication and hard work of many enrich the lives of our community, daily making Lincoln stronger, safer, vibrant, and healthy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and a great message to start our meeting this evening. And I know there have been many councillors in your position who have had the pleasure of sitting on the board, but I must say the current times really are the most progressive. However, before you, Councillor McPherson, that committee had representation for a number of years from Councillor Pachariba, and I don't want to miss his leadership as well. I think between the two of you, you really moved things along quite effectively, and I think showed the way for council to understand that having our own investment, sometimes when things are not moving in exactly the way you want them to, that there is an advantage to do that. I think that you both showed great leadership. So on behalf of council, I want to thank you both. I hope it's a great week. Not maybe a bit more subdued than the CAO would have it, I'm sure, but all in all, great job. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Pachariba. So now I think Councillor Pachariba was next, Madam Clerk, and we'll let him have a few words too. Councillor?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just wanted to remind everyone that this Saturday is Community Care of West Niagara and the Lions Club food drive, 31st annual food drive. And in keeping with COVID-19 protocols and social distancing, this year's event is taking place at Great Lakes Christian College. So using the gymnasium, which will allow for much better distancing, and always looking for volunteers. So you can go to Community Care of West Niagara's website and sign up to volunteer. And things get going about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we look forward to a successful event as always. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Yeah, but thanks for your kind words, Your Worship.
More than warranted. I'll see you at 9 o'clock on Saturday. Now, Madam Clerk, I'll depend on you for the correct order.
No problem. We have Counselor Timmers up next.
Thank you. Councillor Timmers?
Thank you very much, Mary Sue. I just have one very quick announcement. And it's very exciting that Community Care of West Niagara is opening a brand new office at 3831 Victoria Avenue. Very excited and want to welcome them to Vineland. They will begin servicing that area September 22nd, and they'll be open 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 1 o'clock to 4:30. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a big surprise.
It was.
Good to see. Madam Clerk?
We have Counselor Rajima.
Go ahead, Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to let council know that the Chamber's AGM this year is September 30th, and it's virtual. It's being held virtually. And as council members, you're all members of the Chamber and welcome to attend this online event. We have 3 board positions open, and I think there's 5 or 6 interested board members. So a lot of exciting things going on at the Chamber level. And I wanted to comment on Councillor McPherson's announcement earlier on about the BIA. Exciting things going on downtown. And I posted a picture today on Facebook because I was walking down the road the other day and noticed somebody painting the wall in the alleyway. And I know that town staff had a lot to do with that as well, but there's absolutely no doubt that all the good work of the BIA has led into this, and it looks great and people are really excited about it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor. I have to say that the BIA has really, they created an environment when phase 3 came along and the businesses downtown were opening. They had really set the stage for everyone. And the flowers couldn't look more beautiful. It was really beautifully done. So nice comments, and can hardly wait to see that alleyway for sure. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I'd like to give a big shout out to some of our staff. We've had a recent rash of some vandalism, some artistic work done within the Ward 1 area. And I want to thank our CAO, Director Shannon McKay, Mr. Dave Warden for taking care of things promptly and keeping our streets clean and safe. We've also had some recent concerns raised about Hillary Ball Park, and I want to thank each one of them, plus some of the support we received from NRFPS in some of their late night scouts. Going by the area. Again, I think all the residents are very happy with how things have turned out. And again, I just want to thank everybody for their efforts. It's greatly appreciated from all the residents and myself and Councillor Gemma. Thank you very much.
It's great. Thank you very much, Councillor. Always good to nip these things in the bud. No question about it. Councillors, we have 2 presenters this evening, and the first is from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. When our representative, Ken Kowal, came to speak to us the first time, things weren't completely gelled in terms of all the positions. However, tonight we have a full slate, and I would like to introduce Brenda Johnson. Brenda is the chair of the Conservation Authority. We also have Chandra Sharma, the CAO and Secretary Treasurer, and our member, the Lincoln member, Ken Kowal. And Ken is going to provide an update, and I'll leave the interjections of his colleagues to them. I'm sure they have things planned out. And Ken, I'm sure we could listen to you for over an hour, but truth be known, you only have 5 minutes, so.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mary Easton. Good evening, Council. It is actually our chair, Brenda Johnson, that's going to provide the update. So let me pass it over to her.
All right. Well, that was very slippy of you, Ken. Go ahead, Brenda. Welcome. Welcome, Councillor.
Thank you. And thank you, Mary Easton and Council for this great invitation. And thank you to Lincoln Representative Ken Kowal for initiating this meeting. My name is Brenda Johnson. I am the chair of the 2020 Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority Board of Directors. I also want to recognize Councillor Foster, who is also on our Board of Directors. You have some really decent men with us, and we appreciate you sending them to work with us. I am a Hamilton councillor for Ward 11, Glanbrook, which means your very own Mike Kirkopoulos is my constituent. And Mike and I worked very closely together at City Hall. He was, let's see if I get this right. He was very efficient, hardworking. I can't read the rest of what you put down here, Mike, but anyway, but all kidding aside, seriously, Mike was great and we do miss him very much. And Lincoln's very, very lucky to have him. I feel very honored to be working closely with all of our partners at the NPCA. I can tell you with certainty that every board member on the NPCA value our partnerships with our municipalities. On that note, I'm very pleased to introduce to you our CAO, Chandra Shamra. I will let Chandra give you a good description of her resume, and it does speak for itself, but it was her compassion to help mend bridges and therefore building trust with the public that made her such a great candidate for our organization. At Chandra's 6-month review, we as a board did something a little bit unusual. We asked all the senior membership in the staff to also do some evaluation on Chandra's job description, and their positive comments coming back really reassured that we picked the right candidate for this job. So without further ado, Chandra's actually going to take the lead on this and update everyone on the Lincoln portion of the NPCA. So Chandra, there you go.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brenda. Welcome, Chandra.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, Member Easton, members of the council, staff, and our 2 board members, and Member Kewal. I heard you said in the beginning we have 5 minutes. So as soon as I heard that, I've already taken a big paragraph of this out. It was, I was going to speak for 8 minutes. I'll try and make it fast and see if I can do it quickly.
Well, Chandra, let's just start the presentation right now at 6:25. So you start now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We are extremely pleased to have been invited to meet you. And before I go on, I must say that I had the pleasure of meeting your CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, and I appreciate his working style. Looking forward to working with him. A little bit about myself. I've worked for 21 years for the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, working on watershed management, government community relations, and more importantly, climate change programs and helping municipalities with their climate change portfolios. And that's the experience I bring to NPCA. I must emphasize that relationship with our municipal partners is top of mind, both for the board and myself, and I'm gonna make sure that we live to that. Past few months, as we all know, have been both unique and challenging for all of us. Despite the recent challenges posed by the pandemic, I can say we've turned the corner and we're looking forward to an excellent future. It is an extremely resilient organization. Our staff are professional and committed, and our board is engaged, supportive, and very. Some of our recent progress, if you have time, you can go online, is highlighted in our 2019 annual report. It tells the story of NPCA and how we add value to Lincoln communities. With that, I now would like to take a few minutes to highlight some aspects of NPCA work that provides value to our communities here in the township. As you know, of NPCA land ownership is in Lincoln, including 6 conservation areas. The portfolio of this green infrastructure available to our communities in Lincoln also includes conservation areas like Cave Spring, Jordan Harbor, Louth, Mountain View, parts of Rockaway, and obviously our natural wonder, Balls Falls. As part of our mandate of protecting people and property hazards, all water courses in Lincoln have been scheduled for hazard mapping updates, and we will be reaching out to the public later this year about. The NPCA monitors weather forecasting and rivers and issue flood warning. We are the only conservation authority in Ontario that has developed an app called Alertable. And with this app, we are reaching out in real time to inform them about flood warning and flood watches. We are monitoring the quality of water in Lincoln through 8 surface water monitoring stations and 1 groundwater monitoring stations, and the results are posted on our website. We'll be also happy to come and speak to the council in great details of how our rivers are doing. We are committed to supporting planning and growth in Lincoln through our planning mandate. So for context, in 2019, NPCA provided comments on 52 planning applications and 18 permits. And this demand hasn't slowed down in 20 this year. For these, as of August 31st, I would say, we have 46 plan review comments on application and 18 permits in the jurisdiction. So, so that growth is happening in Lincoln. I can attest to that, and we are making sure that we are extremely good standards of customer service on that side. Finally, I'm also pleased to share that we have undertaken a tremendous amount of work to deliver the Auditor General's recommendation and report. And I can say almost 80 to 90% of that work is now complete. The next part of my update is focused on some of the priorities where I think collaboration with township is desired, and we will be facilitating that through your staff. We continue to offer our technical and science support on environmental matters to the township, make a genuine effort to understand what your needs are. We know that the pandemic has brought some unforeseen challenges to our parks, and also the fact that green infrastructure is indeed a critical need for our communities in times of crisis from a health and well-being perspective. And it is with this in mind that we are undertaking a massive upgrade to our infrastructure, a plan to do that for our assets to deal with state of good repair. We are working on a land acquisition strategy, and we will be consulting your staff on both of those. On the infrastructure side, for green infrastructure, we are contemplating a federal stimulus fund application, and CAs may not be eligible on their own, so I hope we can rely on your support for that. In regards to floodplain mapping, for Beamsville, Bartlett, and Prudhome's Creeks, they are all coming to be implemented this year, and we will be hosting public sessions at the end of Q4 of 2020. Lincoln is also considered a high priority area for watershed planning through gap analysis that was done by NPCA staff a few years ago. And ideally, we would like to update the 15, 16, 18 mile and 20 mile watersheds, all for good watershed planning. The data needs to be updated for all of those creeks. So we will be launching that. Restoration is also an important area where we have a lot of opportunity to connect natural heritage areas, riparian buffers along water courses, and stewardship of private land owners and farmers. So we are committed to that good relationship with the industry. We'll implement that. Several upgrades are proposed for balls this year. Phase 1 of the gallery is underway. Detailed design and public consultation. We are also updating the septic system for Balls Falls this year. Now, in keeping with the local tourism opportunities, our 46th annual Thanksgiving Festival will be delivered virtually, and some components will be in person with good safety protocols. And we are supporting the Shop Lincoln initiative on our community partners and webpage. Finally, our new strategic plan was launched in July with a very comprehensive community and stakeholder engagement plan. And we're really looking forward to the completion of this plan next June. Last but not the least, the upcoming changes to the Conservation Authority Act regulations through Bill 108 will offer opportunities to enter into updated memorandum of understanding and service level agreements with our municipal partners, both lower tier and upper tier. And I'm keen to work with your staff to facilitate a formal partnership in areas that are desired by mutually desired. Finally, it is certainly a privilege to lead an organization that has over 6 decades of legacy in community-based watershed management. Niagara indeed is a unique watershed. I love it better than GTA. And Lincoln Township is one of my personal favorites. I'm not saying it. I drive through Jordan many, many, many times. I love it. Once again, thank you for having us, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you very much, Madam CAO. I'm going to just turn quickly to you, Brenda, as the chair, just to see if there's anything further that you wanted to comment on.
I think Chandra has nailed it perfectly. It has been a really unusual year, as you all know. That's just why we're all sitting here with earphones and microphones, and some of us are at home. So Chandra's had a real challenging year trying to keep things afloat. And I think that we've done it as a board. We have done very, very well. Thanks to people like Rob and Ken. Again, I really appreciate you sending them to us, because everybody's main goal is just to work together, and let's just make the NPCA one of the best CAs in Ontario. So
Thank you very much.
Anytime, please feel free to contact any of us for any concerns, any questions, or even just to sit down and have a nice distance coffee.
Absolutely. Well, Ken, you did very well sliding out from the presentation, but
Yes, he did.
I want to welcome you now to make any comments, if you will, because it's probably through your good graces that we would have those conversations.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Just a couple of small comments, really, that the watershed doesn't stop at municipal boundaries. And I think as Chandra and Brenda mentioned, we really are in a unique position to assist municipalities with the conservation ecology expertise, to connect a lot of partners and initiatives. I think the NPCA really is key in building resiliency for healthy watersheds, delivering clean drinking water, accessible green spaces, preserved natural heritage, adequate forest cover, and diverse ecosystems. All of these being very critical to human health and the well-being of the watershed systems. And it's a real honor for me to serve on the board as Lincoln's representative as we continue to move the organization towards those objectives. So thank you again for the opportunity. So.
Thank you very much, Ken. Councillors, is there anyone that has any questions or comments on the presentation?
Madam Mayor, sorry, we have Councillor McPherson.
Thank you. Councillor McPherson, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to all three of the presenters. It is great to hear that things are moving along, and that the NPCA is a very productive NPCA this term of council. So great to hear that. And my question is around Jordan Harbor. So during my short time on the NPC board last term, there was some casual conversation amongst some of the board members, myself included, all of which are no longer on the board, around potential enhancements to the Jordan Harbor, and really to take more advantage of this, obviously beautiful piece of property and a body of water, and I guess making it more of a destination for both our local residents and for obviously tourists. And there's also the piece of the Prudhome's property and the development of the Prudhome's property down the near road. And again, tying in the Jordan Harbor into the whole development. So I'm just wondering if that's on the radar, if that is something that is in the strategy or is being discussed at the NPCA. So whoever would like to tackle that, I'll put it out through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking to see who I'm going
Chandra
to go.
Chandra would be a good person to answer this, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Chandra?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. I think that's a great question and great suggestion. I wasn't here for that, but I can tell you, I have to take a look, and we have started doing that at all of our passive properties and optimize from an infrastructure public use perspective. That's on my radar. It will be part of the strategic plan. And that process has started now by just basic infrastructure upgrades first, and then looking at properties where we have this type of potential to optimize that. It is on my radar. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. That's perfect. And, I do see certainly more activity on the harbor, with kayakers, with boaters. And I have had discussions with local residents about making that property more accessible for biking, for obviously walking, those types of things. So appreciate that it's on your radar, and that it will be part of your strategy moving forward. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Madam CAO. I'm going to turn now to Madam Clerk, to Regional Councillor Foster. Rob, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton, and thank you very much for the presentation, Brenda and Ken and Chandra. And it is very interesting. Ken is taking on a strong role at the board table with chairing the finance committee as we're moving in that direction. Personally, I'm chairing the governance committee, so we have a fair bit of influence, I guess, going on at the board table. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I also sit on the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation board. And there's a presentation coming to the NPCA board shortly on that. That's another area that has seen some interesting changes. And one of the things that we did, and council should know this, we have streamlined and figured out the finances at the foundation rather well. There are monies that are available for NPCA projects within Lincoln. So Chandra's team and the foundation are working hard on figuring out where we're going to be doing our items. But I suspect Balls Falls will be receiving some of the upgrades as we're going along. So anyway, thank you guys for the presentation.
Thanks very much, Councillor. I'll turn now to Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. To the presenters this evening, thank you for being here tonight and for your presentation. I'm mostly quite interested in Balls Falls. It is a major conservation area in the town of Lincoln, and I'm curious around the buildings on the property, which are extremely hold such a major heritage value to our town. And I'm wondering what kind of, how are they protected within the conservation area? I'm not really clear on that. So I'm not really sure who would like to speak to that.
Brenda, I'll turn to you as the chair. Can you give us some guidance?
I can tell you right now that the staff that are on site are constantly upgrading, constantly keeping an eye on the inventory to make sure that not only are they well maintained, but they're safe for the public to use and to tour. I'm going to again turn it over to Chandra, because Chandra's been working very closely, as I said in my presentation, with the senior staff. And I just want to point out something to you as well, that when COVID hit, our passive parks and our Conservation Authority parks, the ones that even charge money, were inundated with visitors, because I think people realize just how important green space is to them more than ever. When you become sequestered to your own home, the only place out is outdoors. And Balls Falls was no exception. When we were there with Mayor Easton and the Minister McLeod, we stopped and asked people, where did you come from? And it was no surprise they were coming from Mississauga and from Toronto. So that's why the buildings are very important to us, because I think that's part and parcel why people do come to this, this particular area, because there was so much to offer. So Chandra, maybe you can get down to the nitty gritty about the operations of the building.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Buildings, the heritage structures in Walls Falls are the heart of that conservation area, as you know, and they're part of the tourism promotion and people come to visit them. Beyond that, we also use those structures, some of those buildings for weddings and other things, because they are infrastructure that people like to be included in the events, and also programming like tours and other things. So it is, because they are on NPCA property, inherently it's our job to protect them, and we are protecting them and upgrading them as the upgrades are needed. I know this year we have a few things planned for one of the buildings. And in future, I also want to say there's additional protection from NEC, Niagara Escarpment Commission. So whenever you undertake any work in Walls Falls, you know, you have to, from a planning perspective, you have to seek their input on the applications. So that's all I know at this point. But again, I can connect with you after, and if there's a specific desire or things to be looked at, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you very much.
If I could just add something more, Mary Easton. I think where I'm coming from is looking at those historical buildings and designation. They are part of our heritage inventory for the town of Lincoln. And I think we would really like to see those buildings designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. So perhaps that's a conversation we could have another day.
Yep. Absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor. I'm certainly very interested, or very encouraged by your comments. We were really becoming concerned about whether or not the heritage buildings had priority or not. So we would welcome any ongoing discussions. And I do enjoy playing the part of Mrs. Ball at Christmas time. Lots of fun. All right, let's finish up then with comments, just some closing comments from our CAO, Mike Krikopoulos, because the staff and the staff at the NPCA, it sounds like they have plenty to work on over the next couple of years. Go ahead, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to our presenters. I just want to thank Chair Brenda Johnson, of course, Councillor Foster, our member Ken Kowal, and I was going to say most importantly, but equally importantly, CAO Sharma. We've developed a very good relationship, and I think in a close time, fairly collaborative, I think, as she indicated. And whether the issue is environmental in nature, whether it's planning and development in nature, I think our philosophies are very similar in terms of finding solutions at the end of the day. So I know our staff's had some very positive experiences in the last number of months since you've taken over, Chandra. So I look forward to that continuing. And I think thank you again for your willingness to always reach out and work with us, and us to work with you as well. So thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Mike. Thank you all very much for coming out. It was very informative, and many, many opportunities ahead for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We know you have a huge docket on tonight, so thank you very much for having us.
Thanks.
Making room. We'll see you later, Julie. I'll bump out.
Thank
you. Madam Clerk, what is the status of Staff Sergeant Perrant? Has he been able to join us?
He is having technical difficulties. We're trying to get him connected by phone, but we've not been successful as of yet. So
we'll proceed.
Yeah, I have the motion, Madam Mayor. We're just not going to read the update from the NRPS. So we'll just read the first part of the motion if you don't mind.
That's fine. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. To receive and file as information, the update from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority on September 15th, 2020. And there's a motion moved by Councillor Miklick, seconded by Councillor McPherson. If you could all remove your mics off of mute, and I'll call the vote, if that's okay, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Councillor Brunet.
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklick,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Rajima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton.
Yes.
And that carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Councillors, we are now considering item 8.1, the special council minutes of August the 24th. Do members of council have any questions or comments on the minutes? I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet and seconded by Councillor Mikulik. Approve the minutes of the following meetings of council, special council minutes of August 24th, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Yes. Counselor Brunet,
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklick,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Rajima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton.
Yes.
And thank you, and that carries.
The next item on the agenda is delegations, and as a point of information for those watching, as a result of social distancing guidelines that are in place, in-person public attendance at special council meetings is not currently available. However, even with keeping that in mind, we have no registered delegations for tonight. We'll move on then to a motion to receive and file council information package. And we have three separate packages. I'll deal with them individually. If you have an item that you wish to discuss, please identify the item. We'll go first to the information package of August the 21st, 2020. Is there any councillor that has any items? Madam Clerk, I see Councillor Pachariva.
That's right.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you very much. I think it's important, given the times of social justice and inclusiveness, and being an inclusive municipality, that we endorse the town of Amherstburg's and the other municipalities, and a couple of the later packages on asking for Emancipation Day, August 1st, to become a holiday going forward.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you clarify, please, what would be involved in that?
A proclamation. So we would have to receive a written request through the mayor's office, and that would be sent to me to consider for putting on the agenda.
Okay, very good. Councillor Pachariva.
Sorry, go ahead.
Councillor Pachariva, when I was reviewing the agenda with Madam Clerk, I asked her to have just a quick look, and she'll do this in greater depth, to make sure that we have no bylaws on that we can locate that would interfere with us actually having a proclamation for Emancipation Day, that there would be no interference with our intentions.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, do you have anything to report in regard to that at the moment?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you require anything more than direction to do that? Look at bylaws that may be active, even though they may be very, very old. I think it would be the appropriate thing to do to make sure that we don't have anything in place.
Correct. And we're certainly reviewing that, and I have been reviewing that since Friday. So
okay.
Yeah, I will have an update shortly.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you very much. Satisfactory, Councillor Pachariva?
Yeah, that's great. And then just one other one, and again,
is that on August 21st?
Yeah, so it's with Township of South Glengarry. It's with respect to support requesting the Ontario government to support additional funding for full-time time positions in long-term care homes. So
And what
again, it
number
comes
is
later
that?
from City of St. Catharines.
I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm flipping. Gorbis, so number 11. So it's 11.
Oh, it's Gorbey. Oh, yes.
Gorbey, yeah,
Okay.
it's South
All
Glen,
right.
yeah. So, and then it's also, the City of St. Catharines also has it as number 2. I think that's something that, you know, we should also be asking the province to do, and given, you know, the second wave, potential coming of the second wave, that this is going to be important that we protect our most vulnerable.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. You have that direction. And Madam Clerk, I have a question about, I don't see anybody else on the list. I have a question about item number 1 to see through you to the CAO, what would be our best approach to the resolution of Huron-Kinloss regarding the tax class, farm property tax class rate program. Mr. CAO.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think what I'll probably suggest, because we have done a little bit of analysis, I know Ms. Trawala and I have reached out to some various consultants on this particular matter. Maybe staff present or staff prepare a little bit of an information report and send it to council shortly, and then should council have any further questions, we can bring it up on a future agenda. But there is some information that we have been able to garner that we will make sure council has in its hands.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I don't see any other names.
No, Madam Mayor, but I do want to make mention, when we're through with item 10 to receive the council information packages, if it's okay with you, as chair and the rest of council, I'd like to go back. We do have Sergeant Sean Parent joined right now. So we'll finish this item. We'll finish this particular motion, and then we can move back to that if that's okay.
That's very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, CAO Kirkopoulos. Council, let's move on then to the package of August 28th. Councilor McPherson, I see your name.
So thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm going to ask about the recommendation Councillor Pachariva made on the long-term care homes, and I think it's an excellent recommendation. But what I see is a long list of recommendations in several motions. St. Catharines, Port Colborne, South Glengarry, Gore. So I'm just wanting to get some clarity around what the counselor is suggesting that staff do. Is it to review all of those and come up with our recommendation, or are we just going to pick one and endorse it?
Okay, first I'll go to Councillor Pachariva to clarify any intentions, and then we'll go to the clerk for possibly some advice. Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I think the City of St. Catharines motion is the most fulsome of them all. So, you know, I would look to support their motion, and you know, if there's any other bits that can be gleaned out of the others and to make it even better or stronger, then I would suggest that to clerks. But I mean, they pretty much cover it, in my opinion.
Okay, Councillor McPherson, do you have anything further that you would like to add?
No, that's exactly what I was hoping we'd get to is you know, one that we can zero in on and agree to. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Madam Clerk, you've heard that. All right, is there anything further? I don't see any other names. And the last is the council information package of September the 4th. I don't see any names, Madam Clerk.
Nor do I, Madam Mayor.
All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachiriva and seconded by Councillor Reimer. Receive and file the following council information packages: August 21st, 2020, August 28th, 2020, September 4th, 2020. Madam Clerk, if you would call the vote, please.
Thank you. Councillor Brunei,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
thank you. Councillor Miklik,
Yes.
Councillor Pachiriva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Yes,
and that carries.
thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if it's okay with you, if we could move back to item 7.2 and bring in Staff Sergeant Parent.
Yes, please go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Hello, Sergeant, how are you? You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem.
It would have been faster, Staff Sergeant, for you just to drive down the road.
It should have been.
Welcome welcome to you very much on behalf of council. It's good to see you again, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And I asked the clerk earlier just to advise you of a pretty significant notice of motion that's coming forward through Councillor Rinchema tonight. So
Right.
anyway, we'll see how we go. Go
For
ahead.
sure. I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I've been here since early July. However, with COVID, I haven't been able to get out about in the community and meet you folks. And I've talked to a couple of you on the phone and via email with various issues that have come up in the town of Lincoln since I've been here. 21 years with Niagara Regional Police. I've worked in uniform patrol in St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and Welland. Did 14 years as a detective in our fraud unit in our detective offices in Niagara Falls and St. Catharines prior to being promoted. The last 2.5 years, I was a uniform patrol staff sergeant in St. Catharines. And in July of this year, I took over the reins from Staff Sergeant DeGidio here in 8th District Grimsby. So since that time, I'm kind of getting to know the area. I'm from Niagara Falls originally, born and raised. My wife grew up in Beamsville, so I have a connection to Beamsville and the Lincoln area itself. And getting to know the issues that are affecting the residents and the folks out here in West Niagara. Primarily, I'm quickly learning that it's a lot of traffic-related issues. And the men and women of the detachment here in 8th District Grimsby are focusing on that primarily, in addition to other calls for service and things such as property checks and park checks that we've been conducting on a nightly basis. We try to stay active in our social media and primarily our Twitter account to show the community what we are doing in terms of showing our enforcement efforts with traffic issues. And I know a big thing right now is the skate parks and the parks and some congregating and possibly not damage, but just nuisance behavior that's occurring in the park. So we're trying to focus our efforts at nighttime on those kind of initiatives. And my door is always open. I'm free for phone calls, emails, and I'm sure some of you can attest I'm available anytime, night and day, and I'll reply back to you guys right away. And I'm open to any suggestions with how we can make the community and the residents feel safer and enhance the quality of life out here in West Niagara.
All right, thank you very much, Staff Sergeant. And I'm going to go now to councillors to see what questions you might have. Madam Clerk, I see Councillor Rinchema.
Correct.
Councillor Rinchema?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Staff Sergeant Parent, for coming and talking with us today. We appreciate it very much. As you heard earlier on, and the Mayor mentioned that we have you may have heard, I know you had some connectivity issues earlier on, but there is a notice of motion coming for consideration later on in the agenda. And it's on behalf of all of council, some of the content of which is related to a comprehensive resolution that was passed this term from council, brought forward by Councillor Brunei and seconded by Councillor Timmers. And the intent is really to take a comprehensive, high-level, forward-thinking approach to improving road safety and general traffic issues, particularly as our community grows and more people are moving to Lincoln. So we're taking these issues very seriously, and there definitely is a role for Niagara Regional Police to play in some of the enforcement options that we'd like to look at through this motion and through the resolution that we passed again earlier on in the term. So we just want to let you know that I know that you're aware that staff and council are open for conversations, and we're here to support you in any way that you can, in any way that we can. And so thank you again.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate it. And I do, and I know the officers that work out here feel the support of the community, and it's very much appreciated. I quickly skimmed over that notice of motion. I didn't go into it as much detail as I wanted to because I was borderline panicking trying to get on this Zoom meeting. So as a result, I had to join our Wi-Fi network, so I don't have access to the file right now on my desktop to comment specifically on it, but I'm open to working with you on anything you guys want to introduce.
Very much appreciated. Madam Chair, I do have another question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My question is related to traffic behavior that seems to have changed, from my opinion, from my view, as a result of COVID and the changes to people's schedules and habits that have resulted from all the restrictions resulting from the state of emergency. And lifestyle habits and routines have changed. So I'm wondering, can you comment on the extent to which the state of emergency has or hasn't affected people's behavior, vehicle behavior, pedestrian behavior, all of the above? And should anyone be considering this as they look around at our roads and the activity on our roads? To what extent should we be considering this?
Right. I think in the early onset of the pandemic, it was a huge issue, and not so much an issue, but a huge decrease in the amount of vehicular traffic on the road, just because people had nowhere to go. The stores were closed, and although there were people visiting local parks and recreation areas, the amount and volume of traffic on the road just wasn't there. But now that we're in the different stages of reopening, the traffic volume has increased on the roadways to the point where it's almost back at the pre-pandemic levels. And with school back in, we don't really have the pedestrian foot traffic that we had during the course of the summer. I know in my travels throughout Lincoln and downtown Grimsby and that, you could see more and more people out and about. But right now with school back in and most businesses reopen and most people going back to work, the pedestrian traffic isn't there as much during the week. And it seems like the vehicular traffic has increased, like I said, back to pre-pandemic levels.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Councillor Mikulik?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Staff Sergeant Sean Parent, thank you for coming. Just with your experience, have you noticed since the cancellation of the Drive Clean emission testing, it seems like there's been a lot of noise complaints. And in a particular tweet that I saw from a Twitter feed from the NRPS, there was an image of a relatively new Dodge Challenger that had its exhaust modified and altered to basically be straight piped. And I'm wondering if yourself or any other police forces in the area or outside of the area have noticed an uptick in the amount of noise complaints since the cancellation of the Drive Clean program. What I felt the Drive Clean program did was at least every 2 years would force people to have their exhaust systems checked for the integrity of the exhaust as well as for the emissions produced. Have you noticed, or is that something that anyone else has noticed recently?
Well, thanks for the question. To tell you the truth, I've never noticed this as an issue until I came out here to Grimsby. There have been a couple of residents that have complained about the amount of noise generated from mufflers, whether it be from trucks, motorcycles, or vehicles, or sedans.
I don't know if the cancellation of the drive clean test has had anything to do with that. But our officers have been out there, and unfortunately, we're obligated to enforce not only the criminal code, but the Highway Traffic Act. And the Highway Traffic Act of Ontario has certain requirements or certain laws that we can enforce with regards to mufflers and noise generated from them. We have been conducting enforcement, as you'll see from our Twitter. You might have referenced that one tweet. I can't remember if we put that one out or not. We've been targeting a couple of areas where we're getting persistent complaints about the noise and the speeding in those areas. And the officers have stopped a couple of cars that have defective mufflers. We haven't seen any yet that have had modified mufflers or non-OEM mufflers. So we are out there. We've been doing an initiative in the town of Beamsville specifically right now since August 20th that just concluded today after 26 days. We had officers out there during the course of the early morning commute and probably right after dinner time, that type of commute, to try to listen for the noise issues that are being generated from some of the residents in that area. So we have been getting a couple of those complaints and we're trying to target them, but our hands are tied with respect to what we can enforce. And some of the people that are complaining are referencing noise enforcement initiatives. And those initiatives are primarily town or city bylaws that the police will assist the bylaw enforcement officers with. But most towns will create a bylaw with regards to noise and how many decibel levels a vehicle can make traveling throughout their town. And then the police can assist in helping to stop those vehicles under the umbrella of the town's bylaw and assist the bylaw enforcement officers with what they primarily do is have decibel meters, and they set them up on a tripod within a certain proximity to the muffler, and that'll detect the decibel level there. And then they can issue a bylaw offense for that vehicle if it's in contravention of the bylaw. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. You know, I just thank you for you, Madam Mayor. I'm curious what the data would be as far as the amount of noise complaints prior to or after, if it's ever been anything discussed amongst police forces. It brought to mind when I did see that tweet. This was a relatively new vehicle that had its exhaust system modified, and I thought to myself, who in their right mind would, you know, spend that sort of money or modify their vehicle if there wasn't really the enforcement or the capability of the enforcement? I think I appreciate the effort that you're willing to make, but really to catch these guys in act would be extremely difficult. It's like trying to catch somebody lighting off fireworks when they're not supposed to be. So if we could keep track and see that would be a request that I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Parent.
For sure. And if I could just have one more comment. The officers in Grimsby and 8th District, which is Grimsby, Beamsville, West Lincoln, they are aware of these issues, and it's a lot of traffic related issues we deal with out here. So they are on the watch for vehicles with modified mufflers or vehicles making excessive noise. And like I've said, unfortunately, to some of the people that have had these issues, we patrol, I believe it's something like 619 square kilometers in this district alone, which comprises 33.4% of the total landmass of the Niagara region. So ultimately, we can't, unfortunately, be everywhere at any given time. So we're trying our best with the landmass that we do have to cover. So that's what I try to tell people. We will try to get there and deal with these issues when they persist, but we just can't catch everyone all the time.
All right.
And I appreciate that through you, Mayor. And I do appreciate that. And I have noticed your presence in and around town through Jordan, Vineland, as well as Beamsville. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mikulik. Staff Sergeant, could I just confirm that you said 619 square kilometers and that makes up 33.4% of the entire land mass of the region? Am I correct?
Let me just double check that. I have it in my email here on my phone, but I will.
I just want to make sure that I have it right.
Yeah, so it's actually 619.52 square kilometers, and it's 33.4% of the region's square kilometer land space. So it's
Okay.
quite a vast area.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, now I have Councillor Russell. Thank you, Councillor Mikulik. Councillor Russell. No, I'm sorry. Yes, I do have
Councillor
Councillor Russell.
Pachariva up next.
Oh, okay. My mistake. Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Thank you, Staff Sergeant, for coming tonight. And I wanted to thank you too for your social media posts. I think they're dynamite. I'm grabbing them from Twitter. I'm copying them and putting them onto my Facebook, and especially when we've had issues in my neck of the woods and the officers are right under the Crescent Avenue King Street sign. It's a dynamite visual. So keep up the good work. You had mentioned an area where maybe we can be helpful in creating a noise bylaw with a certain decibel level. Would that help going forward in enforcement?
Well, it would help. I mean, it would give us some teeth, I guess,
Okay.
but those teeth are primarily bylaw related, right?
Mhm.
So
Okay.
most of these jurisdictions, I think Barrie off the top of my head, Oakville, they created town bylaws with respect to noise and decibel levels, in particular to vehicles. That's something you could, I researched that early on in my time here, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay.
So the officers, we would do an initiative, like we do the truck enforcement initiatives with the MTO and the bylaw departments out here. So we would stop vehicles that we think are suspected of contravening a bylaw, bring them to an assigned location, a parking lot, a safe area off the roadway, and then the tests are conducted in those areas.
Okay, yeah, that's terrific. So it's a multi-pronged approach. So, you know, the ball is also in our court. So whatever we can do to help, I think we should do that and maybe incorporate that into the notice of motion tonight. Just a question with respect to speed. So we've done, and I hearken back to Sergeant Orlando, who was in and chatting with Councillor Brené and I when we talked about our active transportation committee and, you know, the school zone sign. So we've got 40 kilometers when flashing and a defense that some of the ne'er-do-wells and scofflaws use that, well, that wasn't flashing when I went by. Knowing we've got a 40-kilometer speed limit on some residential streets where there's parks and schools per such, would a blanket 40K on all residential streets help with enforcement? Because you go from a 40 to a 50 or a 50 from a 40 and, you know, people, and 9 times out of 10, it's the residents that live on that street. It's not people driving through. So how can we better educate and how can we better help you do your job? It would that help, a blanket?
I don't know if a blanket 40 and this is just my my opinion, a blanketed 40 kilometer posted speed limit in the town of Lincoln would necessarily be beneficial.
Okay.
Those 40 kilometer hour flashing signs are generally in school areas or community zones where we want the people to be driving at a slower rate of speed than they typically legally should be doing. The thing, I mean, you could lower the speed limit to 30 kilometers an hour. It's not going to stop anybody from doing 60 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
So what all that might generate is just increased fines for these people. And some people learn from that. Some people don't. I don't think there's necessarily wrong with the 50 kilometer hour speed limit and the signs flashing to alert people to slow down in the 40 zones. Today, we had an officer out at Jacob Beam School doing that in the 40 zone with the crossing guards. Actually, today and yesterday morning, they were both out there doing that. So I don't know how much slower you really want people to go, ideally. I mean, 40 is a pretty slow speed in a school zone. So if we did 40 all across the town, and to say at what point would you lower it to 30 in a school zone or just leave it 40 all throughout the town? I think with the way things are set up now, we're in a good position with the 50 and the 40. But I mean, you folks in the town have the experts that deal with this and road alignment and structure of the roadways and why certain speeds they are on certain roads, given the layout and topography of the roadway. But I think right now we're in a good position with the 50 and the 40.
Okay. Only because I probably drive about 70,000 kilometers a year in my job. Burlington, Toronto, they're, a lot of the residential streets are 30. And, when you look at harm caused by injury, the speed limit, it drastically drops when you get to that lower rate. And it's just, and whether it is the pandemic or whether it's people, not paying attention when they drive and texting and everyone's in a rush, everyone seemed to forget. And I don't mean to make blanket statements, but a lot of people have forgotten how to drive. And I know you see this all the time, and it's frustrating to those that, obey the rules of the road. And you always want that officer around the corner when the guy flies by you, like you're standing still doing 140. So, just looking for ways to help you guys, and because your job, like ours, is thankless. So appreciate everything you do.
For sure. Thank you so much. And I'll be sure to pass it on to the officers out here. I really appreciate the support.
Great.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pachariva. Madam Clerk, who is next?
We have Councillor Timmers next, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Thank you, Sergeant Parent, for being here this evening. I'm kind of following Councillor Pachariva. Pre-COVID, the driving infractions just seem to be increasing. People are not stopping. It doesn't matter if you have 10 stop signs, they're going to roll through all of them. They're just not stopping at stop signs. They're not stopping at four ways. They're speeding. It seems like it's a behavioral problem. And I wonder if more communication needs to get out there. Like, how do we get through to people that we need to slow down? We need to obey the rules and we need to stop. We can't ticket everyone. Like you said, you can't be everywhere. I don't know if that would work. Some municipalities are putting signs on their lawns, slow down. What do you think about that? Like, how do we communicate to people to stop some of these, I don't know, they're just bad habits or bad driving behaviors? Any ideas on how we can reach people?
I think the social media is huge. Like myself personally, prior to coming out here to Grimsby, I was not into social media, but from a professional standpoint, it's huge to get the message out, as a couple of you counselors have said. Like, people see that, they see we're out there, they see what we're targeting and when we're targeting it. And for some people that sinks in. For other people, and myself included, like I said, I've been a police officer for 21 years. I could be driving up to QEW going home tonight and see an OPP officer have a car pulled over. And if I'm going over the speed limit, I might think I'm gonna dial it back a bit and slow down a little bit, right? So I don't get pulled over. Even as a police officer, I think that. So there is that psychology when people do see a police officer with a car stopped on the side of the road, they will slow down for a period of time. So I think it's a social media, it's the enforcement aspect of it, and it's an awareness campaign. Like I said, in Niagara Falls, where I live, they have handed out those slow down signs. And when people do see those, they do, even if it's just momentarily driving down that particular street, they'll slow down. So I think it's just a combination of enforcement and education and public media or social media awareness type of campaign that is free and easy to do.
No, that's great. I appreciate those comments. And I saw those signs and I wondered about them, and signs like drive like you live here. If it's your community, usually you're going to drive according to the speed if you're driving through your town going home. So yeah, maybe we do need to do more of that public education, and social media is a huge tool. So anyway, I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
For sure, no problem.
Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, I don't see any other speakers. Madam Clerk,
Mayor.
Would you, just to make sure that we're on the right page, would you please read the motion?
Of course. So this is a motion moved by Councillor Miklick, seconded by Councillor McPherson, to receive and file as information the update for Niagara Regional Police Staff Sergeant Sean Parent on September 15th, 2020. And if I could just ask the councillors to remove their microphones off of mute, and I'll call the vote. Councillor Brunet?
Yes.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miklick?
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer?
Yes.
Councillor Rajima?
Yes.
Councillor Russell?
Yes.
Councillor Timmers?
Yes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
And that carries. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, councilors, we are now at item 11, recommendations from standing committees. Is Sergeant Parent still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, Staff Sergeant, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And I think there were at least 2 or 3 things that I certainly picked up that I think I would hope that we would follow up on. So it's great to spend a little bit of time with you when we can talk about the realities of some of the situations and come up to date, I think, get up to date, I think, on some of the realistic solutions. But I certainly appreciate the social media. I think it's very, very impactful the way reporting on some of the findings is being shown to the public. So I hope that the officers will continue with that. It's really very worthwhile.
For sure, we will.
Thanks very much for your support. We don't seem to have a lot of resources, but they seem to be quite effective. So thank you very much for that.
No problem, Madam Mayor.
We'll talk soon. Thanks
All right,
again.
take care.
All right, we're now considering item 11.1, Committee of the Whole minutes of August the 31st, 2020, and the Committee of the Whole minutes of September 8th, 2020. Do members have any comments? Let's look at August 31st first. I see no names, Madam Clerk.
No, Madam Mayor.
Then we'll move on to Committee of the Whole of September the 8th, 2020, council members. No comments. I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Njima. Approve the following recommendations from Standing Committee, Committee of the Whole minutes of August 31st, 2020, Committee of the Whole minutes of September the 8th, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Bernay.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklik.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
And that carries.
Thank you very much. We are at item number 12, reports of municipal officers. 12.1 is the mayor's report, followed by the Councillor Foster's report, 12.2. Ladies and gentlemen who are watching this evening, good evening, and thank you for tuning into the Town of Lincoln Council. And tonight's agenda and the attendance of the delegations that you've already viewed once again demonstrate the fulsome activities that we continue to pursue on your behalf. My thanks to our senior leadership team for continuing to bring forward issues for council. Some of the ongoing themes that we continue to pursue revolve around noise and public safety. You heard that discussion just now with Staff Sergeant Parent, but also the role that parks and open spaces, as well as our multiple natural spaces within Lincoln and Niagara really present to make this a very unique and special environment. It's especially conducive to our individual needs to get out and maintain safe physical distancing at this time. Monthly, if not weekly, council and the mayor's office are positively pursued by citizens who are anxious to see concrete evidence that we're reaching our goals of public safety and quality of life for you and your family, as well as job stability and economic growth, which have both been achieved by many businesses in Lincoln. Many of these have required and will require innovative solutions and partnerships across government levels. In some cases, resolution is slower, but be assured we are available to continue to support your individual needs. Personal and public well-being has become more of a mantra amongst all parts of Lincoln, as more and more we rely on the space. I'm sorry about that. I thought I had done all my duties before we started tonight. Personal and public well-being has become more of a mantra amongst all parts of Lincoln, as more and more we rely on the space within a few kilometers to bring us the greatest degree of pleasure. Fulsome activities where achievable events for families and individuals can be experienced have become a top priority. Support from town staff to achieve all that you can within the current provincial rules and federal funding plans are meeting many of your expectations. And we continue to examine all avenues, including the expectations that are being defined both through calls and now more recently in letters regarding capital projects, and which will bring even more job opportunities and security to Lincoln. The events of COVID have challenged us all, but I will say that the circle of life and the seasons are certainly beginning to experience wonderful fall weather and the bounty of our local farmers. Everyone seems to be out searching for the best they can for canning and freezing to make great desserts and casseroles, to put things away for the winter and bring that level of security and comfort to families. Nothing like a great pie to actually bring feelings of satisfaction and normalcy in our community. Last week, I attended with MPP Sam Moosterhoff in a visit with Minister of Education Stephen Lecce to 20 Valley Public School. And I want to acknowledge all schools and all school systems in Lincoln and the individual work of the boards and the independent school leaders. Particularly, we note the innovation and sincere desire by all teachers to make these next months safe and productive for all students. We continue to worry about the days ahead, but as leaders, we all carry that burden of moral leadership and the responsibility that we have to ensure that everyone is safe. And to all of our school crossing guards, thank you for returning to work, and to all of you for your good work in protecting our families. Thank you all who have corresponded on the matter of the Region of Niagara policy on the wearing of masks. As before, there are many opinions and interpretations of the science or the lack of it. And this Thursday, the extension to the current bylaw will be considered. I know there are many views on this matter. In all situations that do not lend themselves to a complete analysis of the available science or literature, leaders are being confronted with making decisions within our control for the greater good, even where that good is seen as a violation of the right of others, as some believe. The issue of moral injury is at hand in this decision due to the value of leadership to achieve through expert ethical and properly supported decisions on those things that offer opportunities to lift the average level of ethical performance. And I want to refer to Dr. Kate Rockland-Kemplin from the Queen's Review, issue 3 in 2020. And this is what Dr. Kemplin has to say. She says that doing nothing in the realm of the unknown may be viewed just as importantly as a betrayal of what is right, and further leads to a loss of trust when leadership malpractice inflicts moral injury on those who cannot leave the situations of harm. Dr. Kemplin is a nurse by discipline. And now I speak to you about the first responders and all other direct and indirect caregivers who can't leave the immediate danger and are left in improper situations, and who, if the situation is presented again, may find themselves working without adequate PPE, working very long hours, separated from their families once again, and are otherwise impacted by moral injury because of a failure of leadership to make the correct decision, not by what they are directly confronted with, but by those issues that are not yet entirely known from a clinical perspective. And this includes our own frontline essential workers and EOC members, our Emergency Operation Center members, also truck drivers and clerks, grocery store personnel, and so many others who kept our economy and kept our communities going. Dr. Kemplin also says that currently there are many failure of the system to adequately respond, and these feelings are now being replaced by an expectation that there will be future harm if the situation expounds and things get worse. COVID has brought this level of anxiety forward. The manifestation of this lack of trust results in a traumatic and stressful situation and a withdrawing and an isolation from reality. Social isolation and mental health from COVID is on the rise, as we all know. Some of these impacted are caregivers and others are not, but the result is the same. And the overall burden is not COVID direct, but COVID indirect as a result of inadequately strong leadership. Sometimes decisions are required, and in today's global pandemic, taking the easy way out isn't what is required. What people expect is that as leaders, politicians, we make the tough decisions required to maintain health and safety. We have a huge responsibility, counselors, as decision makers, to protect and to enrich and enhance our community. And if my tone, counselors, is not uplifting enough, I want to point out that we are at a moral crossroads, in my opinion, and the political pressure is immense for us to do nothing. And Councillor Foster will attest to this, as our inboxes are overwhelmingly full. As nothing continues, if we continue with nothing, then let us realize that the minority, at least the minority, are going to be carrying the greatest burden of that risk. Therefore, I ask that you consider much more than what is immediately obvious, and I'll continue to support measures that provide the greatest protection to those who carry the greatest risk burden. And we will do that for those who, by their individual actions, continue to create the greatest source of risk. The question of what we are doing to others, or more importantly, what we have failed to do for others, is the moral question that I continue to see as today's priority. The town will advocate and do its best to protect you, our residents. So I ask that you continue to look at your community of Lincoln to continue to grow, prosper, and belong. Let us join in the joy of supporting children to achieve their very best. A positive entitlement that comes by virtue of this beautiful place we call home and all of our traditions, as well as the strong work ethic that gives us the strength to continue to achieve in the face of diversity. Let us continue to pursue our own goals of being a good neighbor and set the example of achieving those goals for our families and those around us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is our honor and a privilege to serve you. Madam Clerk, I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor McPherson to receive and file as information the Mayor's report on September 15, 2020. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Councillor Brunei?
Yes.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miklik?
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer?
Yes.
Councillor Rajima?
Yes.
Councillor Russell?
Yes.
Councillor Timmers?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
And that carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And now we are considering item 12.2, Regional Councillor Update, and I would like to welcome Councillor Rob Foster. Thank you, Rob, for joining us this evening and for your report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. Very interesting meeting that you guys have had this evening, and I particularly like both of your delegations that came in to talk tonight, both on the NPCA and on the police services. So my report is pretty straightforward, and I do apologize. I got it to you guys a bit late. Came in this morning, but just 3 items on it right at the moment. First of all, concerning the hospital and the region, the CAO presented along with the CAOs of Grimsby and West Lincoln, as well as various foundation members to us back on September the 6th. at our corporate services meeting, and laid out the ask that is being asked for from Niagara Region from a financial point of view. Same meeting, I brought forward, it had been a notice of motion, but brought forward a motion to have staff come up with a policy to look at the funding of hospitals within Niagara. One of the things that Mayor Easton and I have talked about, we have to make sure that we have the councillors from across Niagara interested in putting in place a good program. And so this is intended to go and do exactly that. We're going to come up with a formula, and it has to be based on fairness, and it also needs to have a governance approach that goes along with it. This isn't coming back to council, or actually it's not coming back to corporate services until our November meeting. So that being the case, we do have a little work ahead of us, because I know the hospital building group had wanted to have the buy-in from the region sometime over the next bit, because I believe there's dates and times coming up before the end of the year. So anyway, we've started a process, and I'm hoping this is going to be successful for us as we're moving through with this. And you know, we'll be both Mayor East and myself and the other four councillors and mayors from West Niagara certainly are going to be leading the charge in these areas. So the mayor talked about filled inboxes, the mask bylaw. So there's a motion coming forward this week, actually Thursday night, or I think Mayor Easton, I think it got shifted to the afternoon meeting. There's a special council meeting now as well. But anyway, concerning the mask bylaw extension, some very fascinating information we've been receiving. There's long and the short of it is that, and this is my view, everything that I have read, everything that has been provided to me, and even our health officer at Niagara Region have talked about the need to do our social distancing, to be washing our hands, and when it's not possible, to be wearing masks, particularly indoors. So I'm in favor of continuing this. I'm one of the ones that's somewhat pessimistic. I'm very concerned about the next few months. You know, around the world where we have seen, you know, secondary parts to this pandemic. You know, particularly Australia is the one that has become sort of the focal point as they've just gone through their winter season. And anyway, long and the short is that I'm in favor of extending. It can't go on forever, but definitely extending for a period of time, and making sure that we're all following the rules that we need to be following. Community safety zones. So myself and actually CAO Kirkopoulos has also been in discussions with our traffic people at Niagara Region, and I'm sure Mayor Easton has as well. I had a long discussion. I was not very happy when Mountain was not on the list as a next community safety zone. But as was explained to me by the director, it is on the list. There's 34 community safety zones that the region is setting up. And this is all going to be happening over the course of the next 3 years. The 10 that are put in place now, or that they're putting in place, actually on the criteria that the region has used, all came out higher than Mountain as concerned areas. Anyway, I've had a discussion. I do not believe that they took into account the 2 new subdivisions that have come into play at the south end of our town when they did those criteria. So anyway, I've asked for that to be reviewed again. But why this is important, and I'm going to go to what Councillor Pachariva was talking about earlier. You know, the next steps of community safety zones is going to be using the cameras within them. As we've seen in Toronto, where they have introduced this technology, there has been a significant amount of ticketing has gone on because of it. The idea is that the next stage of Vision Zero within Niagara is that there's going to be these setups that are going on. What I have got from Director Rael, there's going to be 2 permanent zones being put in with the cameras, and there's going to be 2 mobile solutions that are going to be put in place. So once the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, I suggested very strongly that we be looking at Victoria as a solution to do this. Mayor Easton and I have both said, you know, we're more than happy to be working with the region on pilot projects in these areas. So anyway, I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I have thrown that out as a next step that we need to be looking at. So, and that's also why, you know, it's important to put the community safety zones in place for Mountain and for the other schools within the Lincoln boundaries that are on our regional roads. So what I'll try and provide for you guys at our next meeting is the breakdown of where we're expecting these to be coming into play. So, and we'll go from there. That's everything that's on my list at this moment. So if there's any questions, we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor. I see Councillor Timmers. Councillor Timmers?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. Thanks very much, Councillor Foster, for being here tonight. And I just wanted to clarify on your last point, what you were talking about, the cameras, 2 permanent and 2 temporary. Is that in Lincoln?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, that's for the region. That's the starting point for the pilot project across Niagara region. It's, you know, again, all of these programs are somewhat expensive to put in place. So, so the next step is to go and do the pilot projects. And personally, I think we're in good shape with Victoria because we were on top of the pilot project to do the community safety zone for the region on Victoria. So I refuse to absolutely guarantee anything, but suffice it to say that I would not be surprised if Victoria is going to be one that's going to be chosen to do this pilot.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I just didn't hear you at the end there exactly what you said. I just wanted to be clear. So yeah, I hope Victoria Avenue is definitely chosen. That would be very good to have it there. Thanks very much, Councillor Foster.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Timmers. I don't see any other speakers on the list. So thank you very much, Councillor Foster.
Yep, thank you very much. And you guys have a good evening.
Thank you. We're now considering the motion regarding 12.2, moved by Councillor Timmers, seconded by Councillor Mikulik, to receive and file as information Regional Councillor Foster's update on September 15th, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Bernay,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
and Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton.
Yes, support.
And that carries.
Thank you very much. Councillors, we are now at item 13, require the notice of motion, and we require a 2/3 vote. The motion is brought forward by Councillor Rajima and endorsed by Councillor Timmers, and it is with respect to Town of Lincoln resolution regarding road safety and traffic control. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote for the 2/3?
Thank you. Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton,
Yes.
and that carries.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Njima, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. As I said earlier on, this is a motion that's coming forth on behalf of all of council as a result of concerns that council and residents have been persistent on over a long period of time, and also related to a motion that, or a resolution that council passed about a year ago with a number of items related to traffic control and safety. Would you like me to read the motion, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Whereas road safety and traffic control for pedestrians, bicycles, and motorized vehicles and the related effects on the economic viability of our downtowns and the quality of life of Lincoln's residents has been identified as priority for the 2018-2020 term of the Council of the Town of Lincoln. Whereas a successful priority framework, the goal of which is to improve road safety and traffic control for pedestrians, bicycles, and motorized vehicles, and therefore improve the related effects on the economic viability of our commercial areas and the quality of life of Lincoln's residents, is multifaceted and requires multiple concurrent action items and approaches, one of which is to address the lack of sufficient control over and appropriate direction of truck traffic in the town of Lincoln. Whereas the Council of the Town of Lincoln passed a resolution on April 15th of 2019 attached here to this motion, Appendix A, committing to prioritize a number of action items related specifically to inappropriate truck traffic and the extent to which inappropriate truck traffic affects a road safety and traffic control for pedestrians, bicycles, and motorized vehicles, and the related effects on the economic viability of Lincoln's commercial areas and the quality of life of Lincoln's residents. Whereas the Town of Lincoln is currently in the process of establishing, together with the Regional Municipality of Niagara, a truck bypass route on Bartlett Road in Lincoln, the goal of which is to alleviate the pressures of truck traffic, specifically that which travels northbound on Mountain Street and then westerly along King through the downtown Beamsville area, and also to alleviate pressures along Fly Road and Victoria Avenue in Vineland. Whereas the target date for the completion of the design work and terms of reference related to the establishment of Bartlett Road in Lincoln as a truck route is January of 2022. Whereas the Council of Lincoln deems it necessary to assign target dates for a number of action items identified in the motion of April 2019 attached hereto, that when carried out concurrently with the completion of the Bartlett truck route terms of reference and design work, will form part of a comprehensive work plan with actionable outcomes toward the goal of alleviating inappropriate truck traffic through the town of Lincoln. Whereas another action item identified in the attached resolution of April 15th, 2019, related to road safety and traffic control for pedestrians, bicycles, and motorized vehicles, and the related effects on the economic viability of our downtowns and the quality of life of Lincoln residents, is that the town of Lincoln requests that the Regional Municipality of Niagara designate certain community safety zones within the town of Lincoln. Whereas the excess noise of motorized vehicles has been documented and reported frequently, if not daily, in all sectors of the town of Lincoln, and whereas the Niagara Regional Police Services 8 District have been an integral part of the reporting chain, monitoring, and reacting to offenders. Whereas the town of Lincoln has a noise bylaw that includes and may need to be amended to include more provisions of noise as a vector to quality of life of the citizens of Lincoln. Whereas the town of Lincoln has been and continues to seek solution for speeding in all areas of the town of Lincoln, including all school zones. And these efforts include, but are not exclusive to placement of speed bumps and other physical delays to traffic movement, decreasing speed limits, and enhanced speed monitoring. Whereas the town of Lincoln is familiar with the recent implementation and success of electronic devices for the documentation of speeding and the direct billing of offenders through the Provincial Offences Act. Whereas the town of Lincoln is preparing to implement a site alteration bylaw, which will further define the rules and regulations for the movement of soil within the limits of the town, including those who attempt to make private arrangements for bringing soil and other fill from outside Niagara and without appropriate testing, and by virtue of such behaviors, encourage the excessive increases in truck traffic, particularly on Ontario Street, Victoria Avenue, and Fly Road, as well as north-south routes in the town, and thereby increasing personal risk to all who would drive, cycle, or walk through the town. Therefore, be it resolved that Council directs the CAO and staff of the town of Lincoln to immediately begin discussions with the regional municipality of Niagara to review which roads or part thereof in the town of Lincoln currently owned by the regional municipality of Niagara would best be transferred to the town of Lincoln in order that traffic control and safety issues can be managed locally. And that Council directs that the CAO of the town of Lincoln bring a report to Council with an associated plan identifying the viability and options to proceed for the transfer of those regional roads or parts thereof to the town of Lincoln, and that the report address the financial, capital, and operating costs associated with the transfer and the ongoing operation and maintenance of the roads or parts thereof, and that Council direct that the CAO and staff of the town of Lincoln to immediately follow up with the regional municipality of Niagara on the timeline to establish community safety zones within the school districts, both on Mountain Street by St. Mark's School and on King Street by Jacob Beam School, and that the Niagara Regional Police be requested to continue monitoring and enforcing all applicable laws, including appropriate town and regional bylaws with respect to vehicle noise and speeding within the town of Lincoln, and that it be resolved that Council direct the Mayor and Town of Lincoln staff to pursue discussions with the region of Niagara on the elements of Vision Zero as they relate to speeds, and therefore the safety of our citizens, including the town of Lincoln, and therefore the safety of our citizens, including the town of Lincoln, participating in any available pilot projects that use electronic technologies for speed offenses, and that an upgrade report be brought to Council as soon as possible for consideration following those discussions. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe, sorry, Madam Mayor, I believe that our CAO wanted to say something on this matter.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing this forward. I'm just going to ask your seconder if she has any comments. Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mary Houston. I do not have any comments at this time, perhaps later.
Thank you very much. I'll turn now to CAO Kirkopoulos, and Mike, I understand that you have you may have some comments on the motion, but also some suggestion to Council regarding expert advice that we could seek.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. I did reach out to the mover and the seconder a short time ago before our meeting this evening, really to suggest, I think there would be some benefit in us potentially reaching out to some experts in the transportation planning field. I think there's a lot of information to digest both in this motion, but I think generally around the topic, and I think as we look towards planning for, what is in some cases a very different and at sometimes uncertain future, it is important that we look to design what I think are very kind of robust, resilient and responsive systems as it relates to transportation and infrastructure. So I was actually talking to staff earlier today, just generally about this particular topic and others. And I think as we shift from looking at things in a very linear way to more of the importance of networks and connections at whatever particular point in time, I would suggest or recommend to council that we maybe look at bringing in a little bit of an expertise to kind of, I don't want to call it a transportation 101 because I think it's a lot more complicated and diverse than that. But I think there potentially would be some benefit as we digest and move forward with and maybe take to the next level council's work plan in general and our work plan around transportation to maybe look to those kind of external experts where possible to supplement what our staff is saying. So I throw it out there now, not knowing again where the appropriate time is. I did ask again, the mover and the seconder and the clerk, where would be the appropriate time for me to maybe make that suggestion. So not sure if that helps council. Definitely willing to answer any questions should council have it.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Mike, for your comments. I think that was a good place. It sets it up from a policy perspective and in connection with the work plan. We certainly do have a lot of issues that we need to address, and we will need expertise to come and set us on the right path. I don't see any other councillors who have questions. I'm just checking again. No further.
Madam Mayor, we have Councillor McPherson followed by Councillor Brunet and Councillor Reimer.
Very good. Thank you very much. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you. Excuse me, Madam Mayor. And I'm going to say that I'm not ready to make a decision on this very lengthy, very detailed, and very important motion tonight, and simply as a result of having it for 2 or 3 hours prior to the meeting. There are many things in here that have significant changes that we're looking for and significant asks that are happening. I think we need some time to digest that, and I'd like to talk to the mover about several of these items. There are also items that are covered in other motions that are coming that I question the need for them in this motion. I do think we have a solid motion from April of 2019. I have no issue with building on that and adding items to that motion that makes sense. But I really, got, caught this afternoon kind of reading through it and saying, wow, there is a lot of stuff here. And to move through to make a decision tonight, I'm just not ready for that. So that's where I'm at. So I'll leave it to the others to make their comment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I echo some of Councillor McPherson's comments and concerns. We have a motion that was brought, and a resolution that was brought in April 15th, 2019, 17 months ago, that had action items A to J. We had 10 items on that list that have been out there for 17 months. Quite honestly, and I'll put it out there, I'm very disappointed with the way we have been able to move this resolution and motion forward. When I look at items that are on that resolution, MTO, scale avoidance. We talked about scale avoidance in Jordan and Victoria and other roads that were deemed vulnerable. When have we had an update on that? We've put digital signs in our residential areas and on some of our roads throughout the municipality. And we've collected data. We've taken the digital signs down. We've put them back up because we said we needed to get more data. When are we going to see the data on these digital signs? We talk about NRP and MTO blitzes. And yes, we did have a blitz on June 23rd. Have we seen the data? Have we seen the statistics? So I'm very disappointed with the motion we have out. So I do have concerns adding to this. And similar to Councillor McPherson, when I look at this, I think we all agree, unilaterally, that we're all concerned about safety in our communities. We continue to hear this. But Madam Mayor, when I was involved as the chair and sitting down with you as the mayor, with Director Graham, with our CAO, I recall that we tried to use a collaborative approach with the region. We sat down with them. I remember sitting in the boardroom, the town hall, and we talked about different things that we felt we needed. And did it take some time to get them? Yes, it did. Was it cumbersome in trying to get some solutions? Absolutely. But we were very successful in getting that flashing sign at the top of Mountain Street. We were successful in getting line painting on the road as you come down Mountain Street. We got some line painting at intersections. We had a sign put up at the Fly Road and Mountain Street to defer traffic. And all those things, in my opinion, Madam Mayor, were done collaboratively with the region. I have a bit of concern, and maybe this is just me, but I'm going to put it out there, that we all agree probably in theory on very many of these items that are on the motion. But I have some serious concerns if this is the right approach. And what message would we be sending to the region with this motion? And again, like Councillor McPherson, with this only coming out at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I would seriously like the Councillor Rinjema, who is bringing forward this motion, to consider a deferral, at least for one cycle, for possibly a month, so we could digest this holistically and understand how we want to add to our existing motion with 10 action items already on it. And through you, Madam Mayor, I'm wondering if you could just ask, through you, the CAO, to comment on how he feels that him and staff, could bring potentially this motion through, with the region, and how those discussions, in his opinion, would be handled. Just interesting to hear from the CAO, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brunet. Mr. Kirkopoulos, would you please respond to Councillor Brunet's question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just trying to think about speaking about, how we bring this forward with the region. As council will recall, I did advise council that there was a regional CAO's meeting last week. One of the items on that particular motion was around Vision Zero and revisiting the whole conversation around Vision Zero. And I think we've talked about in the past that COVID has kind of, I want to say, extended some of the timelines. So there's definitely a desire for the region or by the region to move some of these items forward. I know Mayor Easton, you and I have actually a meeting with Acting CAO Ron Tripp and Carolyn Rial coming next week, I believe, and it's an item or an opportunity for us to sit down and I think chat about some items specifically on the transportation file and the importance of that file to Lincoln. And I know both you and Councillor Foster, have expressed some concerns about some of the items I think that have taken a little bit longer than we'd like to move forward. And so I'm hoping some positive outcomes come out of that. I know it's no news, and Director Graham can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it would come as any news if we were to bring parts of this motion forward to the region that we want to take over Mountain, that we want to take over certain streets. Those are conversations that have been on the table for some time. I think timing is always, what we'll need to discuss. I know part of the TMP conversation, members of council will recall, there was a question posed around taking that over. I think the timeline that the region is considering is a lot longer than maybe what we would like. The region is both a financial contributor as well as a research contributor when we look at the work that we're doing on our own Bartlett Road in terms of making that a bypass that we'd like to do. So in some ways, I think when we do report back on it, these are all questions that we can ask of the region. I think in some cases they're going to say we need to chat about it more. We need to negotiate. We need to sit down. So, I think we'll probably have a better idea as the mayor and I sit down with acting CAO Tripp and Director Rael in terms of where we'll be, and then maybe we come back following that meeting again, depending on what happens with some information or further information. But I think, I agree with the comments that from a staff perspective, we're also, I think, supportive of where the motion is trying to go in moving the motion forward and getting the region to the table with us. And I think historically, we've benefited in the last number of years from having a very collaborative relationship with the region. So hopefully that answers your question, Councillor. A little bit long, but.
Councillor Brunet.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do appreciate the CEO's comment. Madam Mayor, through you, I just wanted to make one other point before I will sign off on this. And maybe it's just a housekeeping thing, but I have to be honest. When I read this resolution, there was one thing that jumped out at me that I'm not very comfortable about. And again, I think it's just a housekeeping thing. But the last on the last page of the resolution, where it says therefore be resolved, and there's 5 items. Number 5 is that it be resolved that council direct the mayor and the town of Lincoln staff. I would like to suggest through you, Madam Mayor, through the clerk, or maybe to the 2 people that are bringing this motion forward, that it might be better suited if we were to change that wording to that it be resolved that council direct the town of Lincoln staff and Regional Councillor Easton and Regional Councillor Foster to pursue discussions with the region of Niagara on the elements of Vision Zero. I just have a bit of a bugaboo with council directing the mayor on this. I think it's better suited if the wording is Regional Councillor Foster and Regional Councillor Easton. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. All right. We next have Councillor Reimer, I believe, Madam Clerk.
We do.
Councillor Reimer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Most of my comments have been taken up already by Councillor McPherson and Councillor Brunet on several items, especially with the amount. It's a lot of material to digest in a short amount of time. Councillor Brunet's comments regarding how this looks toward the region. Number 1 and 2 in this motion are huge items. Those are huge reports. It's a pretty large scope. And my initial, in a quick read over of this, is that number 3, which I would put up on the top of my importance list, number 3 with the safety zones and the truck bypass route are going to get lost in this. This is a big, those are big things. There's a lot involved with taking over roads, even though it reads very well. Strongly encourage deferral of this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reimer. And Councillor Pachiriva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. And I mean, my fellow councillors have touched it. If we're going to be dealing with notices of motion, I would like to go back to the way that we used to do it. And if we have to change our procedural bylaw, then so be it. I mean, I walked through the door at 4:30 and didn't have time, but so you tried to get through this and am at unease with getting this, an hour before the meeting. And when you go through it, Councillor Brunet, myself, yourself, CEO Kirkopoulos, acting CEO Tripp, sitting there at the top of Mountain Street and getting that, truck route along Fly Road, which is a regional road to Victoria, which was constructed for truck traffic. And in one of these points now we're going to abandon that. So, and again, in my questions to the staff sergeant tonight, it's a multifaceted approach. We need to do some work with our noise bylaw. And this is a lot of direction to others. And we need to look internally and say, what are we going to do to solve the problem? Where is the data? Where are we going to start implementing aspects of our transportation master plan, like speed reduction and speed safety and speed bumps and per se, and then list this out? Because again, and Councillor Bernay touched on it, we had achieved a lot with collaboration, and this motion, whether intended or not, is very one-sided, and is going and saying, you will do A, B, C, D. You know what? It needs to be some common ground, and we found out that we work best in a collaboratory approach. So I would like to see this, looked at differently. Again, go back to the old way that we do it, because, and like Councillor Reimer said, some of the things that we really want to achieve are going to get lost in this. And we were told that we'll get Mountain Street when Bartlett comes. Okay, so what if the region then, like, what are the outcomes that we want? What are we looking for? Is, when we asked the last time about roads to be downloaded, we were given the North Service Road that needed millions of dollars of bridge work. So what's our end game here first, before we go asking? Because we may get stuff we may not want. And the things that we may want are long down the road. So more thought needs to go into this. I appreciate the intent. It's noble, it's honorable. We've all been dealing with this, but we need more time to work this through.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm looking now to Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, to everybody, really. Again, I think a lot of great points were made, in particular by Councillor Bernay, Councillor Reimer, and just most recently Councillor Pachariva, about, again, a little bit more thought into some of the points on page 3. My concerns were more about point 4 and point 5. That the NRPS be requested to continue monitoring and enforcing all applicable laws, including appropriate town and regional bylaws, so on and so forth, and that be resolved that Council direct Mayor and Town of Lincoln staff to pursue discussions with Niagara Region on elements of Vision Zero, et cetera, et cetera. To me, again, we get concerns and complaints brought to us about speeding traffic on a weekly, if not daily basis. I just actually had one during the meeting about Green Lane that was raised. 4 and 5 to me seemed a little bit too much like status quo. Particularly 4, like, we're not asking for an increased presence. We're not asking for anything above and beyond what's already going on. And it doesn't necessarily appear that what's happening right now meets the requirements that are concerned, as the concerns are being raised by our residents. So I would like to see 4 beefed up a little bit in some regard, and then 5 as well. I think that also is somewhat of a status quo. We've already heard Councillor Foster mention some of the technological implements that might be coming forward. So I think I'd like to see that one get a little more creative and progressive to pursue some other endeavors to try to bring some reduction in some of the concerns being brought forward by residents. So I think take a little bit more time, defer it, and put some more time into things that might have a little bit more teeth as it pertains to 4 and 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Russell. Councillor Mikulik, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Agree. Again, I agree with most of the comments that have been mentioned. I think Mr. Kirkopoulos was a little bit to the fact that I think we need the MTO's guidance a little bit on this, as there's quite a bit with regards to the regular inspections, the scale of avoidance, the enforcement blitzes as soon as possible. These are MTO issues. I wouldn't mind having an MTO officer make a presentation similar to Staff Sergeant Sean Parent. I'd like to know how that organization works with respect to complaints, how they're handled, what steps they take in this sort of thing. And again, I received this notice of motion relatively late, and I didn't even, unless you're checking your email every hour or every 20 minutes or every 10 minutes, it's not a lot of time, and it's a pretty loaded motion, and I think just about everybody is CC'd on it. So I'd exercise some thought, a little more thought. I'm not comfortable making a decision in favor at this time. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mikulik. I have the mover and seconder to speak. I'm going to turn to Mike because the CAO, because there are a number of matters here that have implications for what has or has not gone on since the spring of 2019. Certainly the issues at hand have not been going away. And so, Mr. Kirkopoulos, if we could have a response from you, that would be very helpful.
There we go. Through you, Madam Mayor, to all of council. I mean, I think first and foremost, let me apologize for the, I think, the lateness of the motion. You know, I think that wasn't intended. And so kind of how it worked its way through our own internal process, let me, I think, you know, offer my apologies for those. I did also share with Staff Sergeant Parent, not only this evening's motion when I received it as he was coming on, but also the previous motion of April 19th. And he has committed to getting back to us, I think, with police's thoughts as they see some of the elements in here in terms of role and collaboration. Also, I like the suggestion from Councillor Mikulik around MTO, and I think we can figure out who that expertise is, whether it's MTO, whether it's a combination of MTO and other experts in the particular field. I think, you know, to directly answer the question in terms of what's happening, I did review once again the committee report of September 8th. That I think was ratified in this evening's package, and that was the truck safety update, where Director Graham provided, I think, some updates on those items A to J that Councillor Brunei, you mentioned, and, you know, everything from the advocacy around AMO that we've done and continue to do around the north-south crossing, which is much more of a, you know, long-term strategy, but as well what Mountain Street looks like in terms of working with our partners at the various quarries, the assumption of Mountain Street, which I think the first response we received, as I noted in my previous comments, was not until the new escarpment crossing is implemented. You know, moving down to the community safety zones that was identified on Mountain Street. I know we've added a few others to the list. The successful truck blitz and inspections, we did have one on June 23rd, and I hear council loud and clear you wanted the data from those, not just the date in which it happened, but I think how do we publicize that data more? And so I think we can continue, you know, we can continue to do that. Enforcement around scale avoidance, again with MTO, is also on that list. I mean, I won't go through each of the items. I think council has seen each of those items. But I think there's some things, you know, we are doing. Have we been doing enough? Can we be doing more? I take council's comments, I think, very seriously. There is more that needs to happen. We need to find innovative solutions to things. We need to do things that are low cost. You know, we need to be responsive to the community and what we're hearing from neighbors. I can tell you, whether it's COVID or not, we are hearing a lot more. You know, from residents around certain issues, some small, some a little bit larger. But I mean, one thing I do want to reassure council of is that, you know, truck traffic and pedestrian safety continues to be a top priority for staff, as I know it is for council. You know, and I would say, especially as it pertains to the economic impact that it has to our downtowns. We've done a lot of work on our downtown, getting it to where we want to be, and Councillor Deputy Mayor McPherson, you know, kicked off the meeting talking about the importance of BIAs. So working the TMP is going to be crucial. We do need to, I think, accelerate some things, and I'm not going to use COVID as an excuse, but I'm not sure if Director Graham has anything more to add, or I've addressed that question maybe to the best of our abilities right now. I mean, I can definitely say that following the meeting next week, I believe, with acting CAO Tripp and Director Rael, I hope we have maybe a better idea of the type of cooperation that the region will provide, which I know is there. It's just a matter of, how are these things prioritized? So just a few comments, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, CEO Kirkopoulos. I want to make a comment because I don't want anyone leaving the table putting responsibility on the mover and seconder for what has happened here. It is my opinion, as you all know, that, and I think that everyone shares this, or at least it's always been my impression that we all shared that we have to do absolutely everything we can to improve the situation. Councillor Njima and I and members of the public did meet with the regional staff prior to the last election. I think we walked away from that meeting understanding that there was a significant amount of work that was committed and nothing has happened. The concerns that are being raised by the community are, I think, very relevant. And I certainly don't think that the speed at which they are coming to all of us are more than is warranted. The traffic in the town has increased considerably, and I think that what we are seeing here tonight is a list that yes, maybe some of the items are duplications. However, I think that if we did an accounting on what has gone on, we wouldn't be very satisfied with the results. So while I also take all of your comments because I think that you intend them to be made with as much vociferousness as I have on this issue. And I certainly wouldn't think for a moment that you don't. However, the question that I would have right now is, how do you want to see these issues portrayed? And what type of priority setting do you think is most appropriate? And maybe that's something that we can do also collaboratively before we continue on. Now, members, I have not heard anyone, even though we've had a number of speakers, I've not heard anyone defer this motion. It can't, of course, be someone who has spoken already to the motion. So, Madam Clerk, is there anyone who has not spoken to this motion that could even consider deferring it?
So, Madam Mayor, initially I have noted that Councillor McPherson had requested to defer this motion, and we went to every other member to speak to that. So it does look like there is a majority to defer the item. We can put it to a vote.
All right. I'm just going to allow the mover and seconder to comment further. Madam Clerk, if that is acceptable procedurally.
Sure.
All right. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's my understanding that this is being brought forward as a notice of motion. So I did speak with the clerk before, last week, before bringing this forward, but the intent is that it is a notice of motion. It's been read, it's been considered. Yeah, it came late in the day. There was a lot of back and forth that went with the motion. But my understanding is that it is a notice of motion, and the intent is just to receive it as a notice of motion, and that it come back to a future, I guess, council meeting, at which time we would decide whether to consider it at that time. And I guess if there's work that needs to be done to that motion, that could be done in the meantime, absolutely. And I want to clarify, I think, a little bit about the original purpose of the motion. I think it got a little expanded beyond perhaps what the original intent was, and that was to drive forward and put dates on certain action items within that original motion that was brought forward with the resolution of April 15th, 2019, because it just flies by. And as Mayor Easton said, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to achieve a lot of these action items that we all want to see done. We want to see movement. We want to see some change. And as regarding the taking back of certain regional roads in the municipality, that we've been talking about that for a long time. And we really haven't gotten comprehensive answers on that from what I've heard. And so the original intent of this motion is to really to drive that home, and so that it just is right in front of us on our desk, and that we get a report back from the CAO to talk particularly about the idea of taking parts of the regional roads back, so that we can control traffic problems in our own municipality. And again, I'm absolutely in favor of massaging the motion with the guidance of the CAO to address some of the concerns that council has. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Madam Clerk, would you please clarify the in the script that the comment about this being a notice of motion and that it is being considered immediately upon its introduction, which my interpretation of that and the fact that it required a 2/3 vote moved it from a notice of motion to a walk-on motion.
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all right. So this is not a notice of motion.
No, it is not.
By definition. Okay, thank you very much for that. All right, let's move on to Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Thank you to the clerk for clarifying that. I was a little confused as well. I was thinking this was a notice of motion. I'm actually quite happy that Councillor Regima brought this forward. There is a lot in there. And I do agree that we do need to perhaps make some changes. There is a lot of material there. There are a lot of moving parts, but it's on the table and we're discussing it, and that's a good step. I think as far as the CAO with his comments about bringing someone in to help us work through this, an expert, I think is a very good idea because there are so many different parts to this. I think putting it on the table though and discussing it is a good first step. I think there's a bit of frustration happening because things are not getting better out there. In fact, they're getting worse. With all the new housing, the traffic's increasing, and we are going to find ourselves with some major issues, I think, if we don't address some of this very soon. So that's where I am with this motion. I did second it to get it on the table. I wanted to have a discussion around it. I do believe we need to figure out and pull out the very best priorities and things that we can achieve. Because time is moving on and we're seeing very little action, yet we're seeing issues becoming bigger and bigger. So that's kind of where I'm sitting on it, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go on, I'm going to ask the clerk a question about procedure, but I'm going to turn to the CAO right now. I think we've had all the comments, Mr. CAO. We have a meeting next week with CAO Tripp and Director Rial. Do you believe that you would be in a position to provide a fairly fulsome update to council following that meeting? What would your expectations be?
Through you, Madam Mayor, or to you, Madam Mayor, and to all of council, I think that's probably a good step following that meeting, Your Worship, that I summarize a little bit of what's come from that meeting, maybe some next action steps, and share with council. I think what I hope to be the region's willingness and partnership in moving some of these items forward. I think we can share with them that there is a notice of motion that we are working through. I don't even mind getting some of their thoughts on appropriate language that I think helps us move some of this forward. I think to highlight some of the previous comments around doing it in a collaborative approach. And I think once again, highlighting for them, council's and our collective community frustration around some of these particular items. And I do think, again, bringing in maybe some of that expertise, I think on specific elements is also not a bad idea. So I think collectively, maybe work with the mover and the seconder over the next, what I would say the next cycle. Let's have that meeting, Mary Easton. And I think what I'd also like to do is, report back on what the region's willing to do, and where I can maybe get you some of the data that council's asking for before you consider this motion. So a lot of work to do in the next few weeks, but that would be my goal, I think, hearing what council has said this evening. And so we'll get started on it first thing tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Madam Clerk, what are our procedural options?
So Madam Mayor, I have Councillor Brunet that wants to speak next,
Oh.
but otherwise we can call the vote.
Okay, all right. Councillor Brunet, please go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to acknowledge that I completely agree with your one comment that you said, what really is important, that we need to strategize and really come up with a strategic plan on what our priorities are. And I couldn't agree more with that. And I really, when I read everything that's in this notice of motion, which has now been brought as a motion because of the 2/3 vote, I really look at this as two separate issues. And I think we need to remain cognizant as we move forward with this, that there really are two separate issues here. There's the noise and the traffic that we're all hearing from the community that we're living and breathing every day, that as a community, as a town of Lincoln, with our staff and our CAO collectively, we can work on. But then the second silo is everything that we need to do with the region, whether it be the truck bypass, working with them as a partner for Bartlett Road, the taking over and the transfer of some of these roads, the north-south Bartlett crossing, the school zones, school safety zones, Division 0. Those are all things that need to be dealt with the region. And I really think that we need to keep those as two separate silos. I really believe that there's a lot there. And I think we can be more successful moving forward if we really address those as two separate silos so that we get to the common goals. And as you indicate, strategize our priorities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brunet. And given the discussion that we've had this evening, I certainly appreciate your comments, and they're helpful to moving forward. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Thank you, and this is to defer. So I had a motion, sorry, Councillor McPherson motion to defer. Can I get a seconder for that? Pachariva. And I'll call the vote. Councillor Brunet.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
I don't know how you can ask a question in the midst of the vote.
It's a motion to defer.
So my question is there a date attached to the deferral? Or how are we planning to move forward with this in the future?
I believe it was suggested that we move it one cycle.
Okay, thank you. In favor?
Thank you.
Councillor Russell?
Yes.
Councillor Timmers?
Yes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
And that carries to defer this item to the next cycle.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, and thank you to the mover and seconder for bringing this forward, and to the all councillors for the great discussion that we've had tonight. Just give me a moment. We are moving on now to item number 14, which is a motion to consider confidential discussion, which we have none this evening. Item number 15 is a motion to approve bylaws, and we do have 9 bylaws this evening for consideration. Do members have any comments?
Madam Mayor, we have Councillor McPherson up first.
Councillor McPherson, which bylaw?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Bylaw 15.5 and 15.6.
15, 25, and 26.
15. So it'd be bylaw number 2020-48 and 2020-49-Z550.
Okay. All right. The bylaw 2020-48 members is a bylaw to adopt amendment number 9 to the official plan for the town of Lincoln. We'll deal with that one first. Councillor McPherson.
So, Madam Mayor, I just have a comment with regards to these 2 bylaws, and I would also request a recorded vote on these 2 bylaws, please. So my comment is that I did not support the bylaw at these 2 bylaws at the Committee of the Whole meeting, as it wasn't because I didn't think it was a good bylaw. My decision that night was based on tweaks that I saw that we needed before we made our decision.
This isn't reading.
I am now satisfied with the satisfied that we will be carrying through with the recommendation to map out the town, showing the available lands for cannabis production based on the planning recommendations, and that these results will allow us the ability to review the bylaw at that time and make sure that it does in fact cover us. So with that being the case, I am supportive of the 2 bylaws. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councillor, you said you are now supportive, is that correct?
As I said in the Committee of the Whole meeting,
Yes.
I did not support them, but based on the discussions since that meeting, I am confident that we are tackling this as I think we should, and making sure that what has been recommended from a planning standpoint is actually going to be impactful and get us what we want out of that part of our approach to cannabis.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Councillor. And I'm assuming then that you have no further comments on 2020-49-Z550. That's the.
It's just, yeah, we've got 2. Yeah.
48.
As
okay.
a group, those two
right.
bylaws I'm looking at as a group. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Councillor Timmers? Councillor Timmers, did you have?
Sorry, Mary. So my hand was up by your. I didn't remove it last time.
Okay, actually, that's fine. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right, is there anyone else? I don't see any other names, Madam Clerk. Okay.
No, Madam Mayor, but can I just ask, is the council requesting to lift those 2 items and vote on them separately from amongst the other bylaws? I just want to be clear.
I'm looking for a recorded vote, yes.
So you want to lift them and vote on them separately?
He does.
If that's
Thank
what
you.
it takes, yes.
That is
thank
fine.
All right, Madam Clerk, we'll deal with these 2 first.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Did you want me to call the vote, Madam
If you
Mayor?
would,
Motion?
yes.
Sure. I have a motion moved by Councillor Miklick, seconded by Councillor Reimer, that leave be given to approve the following bylaw, 2020-48 bylaw to adopt amendment number 9 to the official plan for cannabis cultivation and production. And I'll call the vote. Counselor Brunei,
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklick,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Regima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton,
Yes.
and that carries. I have a bylaw that leave be given to approve the following bylaw 2020-49-Z550, bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 93-14-Z1 as amended of the Town of Lincoln Cannabis Production Facilities. Counselor Brunei, or sorry, moved by Counselor Miklick, seconded by Counselor Reimer. Counselor Brunei,
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklick,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Regima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton,
Yes.
and that carries. Thank you.
All
Do
right.
you want me to carry on, Madam Mayor?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Counselor Miklick, seconded by Counselor Reimer, that leave be given to approve the following remaining bylaws. 2020-44 bylaw to step up and close an unopened road allowance between Lot 10 and Lot 11, concession 1 and 2 in the Town of Lincoln. Bylaw number 2020-45 bylaw to convey unopened road allowance between Lot 10 and 11, concession 1 and 2 in the Town of Lincoln. 2020-46 bylaw to stop up and close an unopened road allowance part of Lot 15 broken front concession and part of Lot 15 concession 1. 2020-47 bylaw to convey unopened road allowance between broken front concession and concession 1, Lot 15 in the Town of Lincoln. 2020-50 bylaw to amend and bylaw 92-13 being a site plan control bylaw in the Town of Lincoln. 2020-51 part lot control bylaw for Lincoln Estates. 2020-52 part lot control bylaw for Vista Ridge Phase 2. Counselor Brunei,
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklick,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Regima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Yes.
and that carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We will now confirm the proceedings of the council meeting. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Brunei, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2020-53, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of special council at its meeting held Tuesday, September 15th, 2020, being read a first, second, and third time. That bylaw number 2020-53 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Thank you. Counselor Brunei,
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklick,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Regima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton.
Yes.
And that carries.
Members, before we motion to adjourn the meeting, do members have any comments? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Reimer that special council on September the 15th, 2020 be adjourned at 20:46 hours. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Counselor Brunei,
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklick,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Regima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Yes.
and that carries. We are adjourned, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. This concludes our special council meeting. Thank you for joining us, and a reminder to stay safe. Thank you, Madam Clerk.